The only people that would be more surprised would be my family, because when they put on the Bob Dylan history that goes on forever, I'm just like, oh, please. But there's just something about that song that just resonated when I was thinking about this talk this morning. So you all might be familiar with that old Buddhist parable, but it still rings true today. And the parable goes, once upon a time, there was this particularly intense monsoon, and 2 Buddhist monks were returning to the monastery after running errands. The river they'd crossed earlier that morning had now become really swollen and overflowing. And they saw this extremely beautiful woman on the other side of the river, in this delicate silk kimono. And she was so distressed because she couldn't get to the other side of the river by herself. So the older monk scooped her up, carried her safely to the other side, and the 2 monks continued on their way. 5 hours later, as the 2 monks returned to the monastery, the younger monk was absolutely fuming, and he burst out, "How could you do that? You touched a woman, you know that's against our rules. You're not allowed to do that." And the older monk very calmly replied, "I put her down 5 hours ago, and you've carried her all this time." How often do we all do that? How often do we carry baggage for many hours, baggage that's not even ours to carry? And we often do that. We sit there in judgment over what other people should or shouldn't be doing. And who's to say what they should or shouldn't be doing if you don't know what the circumstances are? And those all need to be taken into consideration, the circumstances concerning, do you need to stick to the rules, or is there a higher good? And perhaps instead that person used their better judgment and went beyond the rules to serve humanity. And are we really in a position to hold and judge them and hold that against them? I believe that most, if not all of you, have heard the expression, walk a mile in someone else's moccasins. Meaning, before judging someone, we must understand their experiences, their challenges, their processes. And the full idiom is, before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes. So the walk a mile in his moccasins quote is often contributed to various Indian tribes, but it actually comes from a poem written by Mary T. Lathrop in 1895. The original title was actually called Judge Softly, and here's the complete poem. Pray, don't find fault with the man that limps or stumbles along the road, unless you have worn the moccasins he wears, or stumbled beneath the same load. There may be tears in his soles that hurt, though hidden away from view. The burden he bears, placed on your back, may cause you to stumble too. Don't sneer at a man who is down today, unless you have felt the same blow that caused his fall, or felt the same that only the fallen know. You may be strong, but still the blows that were his, unknown to you in the same way, may cause you to stagger and fall too. Don't be too harsh on the man that sins, or pelt him with words, or stone, or disdain, unless you are sure you have no sin of your own, and it's only wisdom and love that your heart contains. For know, if the tempter's voice should whisper as soft to you as it did to him when he went astray, it might cause you to falter too. Just walk a mile in his moccasins before you abuse, criticize, or accuse. If just for 1 hour you could find a way to see through his eyes instead of your own moves, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind and narrow-minded and unkind. There are people on reservations and in the ghettos who have so little hope and too much worry on their minds. Rather there, but for the grace of God, go you and I. Just for a moment, slip into the minds and the traditions, see the world through his spirit and eyes, before you cast a stone or falsely judge his conditions. Remember to walk a mile in his moccasins, and remember the lessons of humanity taught to you by your elders. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave in other people's lives, our kindnesses and our generosity. Take the time to walk a mile in his moccasins. I had never heard this entire poem before last night when I was researching all this. But I found it very deep and very touching poem of understanding and just the non-judgmental abilities. And I found it very grounding and very humbling. Which leads us nicely into the Bible verse, Matthew 7, verse 1 through 2. Judge not, lest you be judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. The danger in passing judgment on others is that we'll have our own standard come back to haunt us. So that's like the spirits of judgments past. Like in the Charles Dickens movie, how you have the ghost of Christmas past, how you treat others, it comes back to haunt you. And in the book of the Spiritualist Natural Laws, The River of Life, it's by our own Reverend Marilyn Autry. It happens to be in our books, available in our bookstore. The law of tolerance states, it necessitates your being tolerant and allowing another to go on their own path in the search of who they are, as well as their search for their truth. By practicing your life in accordance with these teachings, you allow yourself a much easier and peaceful life and a world of more harmony. In Reverend Autry's book, she states that the law of harmony is important to be aware that your thoughts are very powerful, and they do create an energy field. And we see this more and more. That's being talked about, quantum physics and whatnot. This energy field can result in the maintaining or in creating unbalance. So be very, very careful of what you think. As Mike Dooley says, thoughts become things. So back to the Buddhist parable. The older monk made his decision for the highest good rather than to follow the rules. Whether he based it on the golden rule, which of course we know is do unto others as you would wish to have done unto you, or whether it was on his knowing that it's more important to look after your fellow man, or woman, as in this case, to rescue a person, because each of us has that God spark within us. So that's far more important than a man-made rule made by the Buddhist monks. So he made his choice for the highest good, and then he walked humbly on. In contrast, the younger monk carried that misconception of what was the highest good with him, causing him to be angry at the older monk for breaking the rule, and he let that anger build over the 5-hour trip. He let that anger build and build, so he was creating a disharmony within himself and with the other monk. The vibration causes imbalances, and if left unchecked, it grows. It is through his lack of compassion and understanding, his judgment on the narrowness of the understanding, that caused this disharmony. And what good did it serve? None. Absolutely none. And unfortunately, we have seen far too much of that in these last few years, with so much lack of compassion and understanding for others. And it really has divided many friends, family, and certainly society as a whole. And if we as society as a whole have created this unrest and division, we are also capable of repairing it. It is the law of choice which causes the cause and effect in our lives. If we are all to stop and think about the choices we make and whether it causes harmony or disharmony, how to treat others with love and respect wherever possible, we can certainly turn society around to be a much more peaceful and enjoyable. We have these abilities. There are many roads to get to the same destination. So if we all kept the golden rule and love as our major goals, would it really matter which political or non-political method we use to get there? So if we wanted to go to Lake Mary, we could take the I-4, or we could take the 417. One person will say, take the I-4, no tolls, it'll save you a lot of money. And the other person would say, oh, by all means, take the 417, pay the tolls. It will save you headaches. There's no construction. You don't have to worry. It will just be a much calmer drive. So which one of them, and if you get to Lake Mary, you haven't caused an accident, you've gotten there safely, you've gotten there on time. Does it really matter which one you chose to take? No. So which person was right? Both of them, with their own perspectives. And that's how we go through life. Again, in the Bible, there's Romans 12, verse 18. If possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all people. Let me say that again, because it just took me a minute to take it in when I heard it the first time in a meeting recently. If possible, so far as it depends on you, be at peace with all people. That puts a lot of empowerment. You realize what the power that you have and how you interact with the world. And we see this similar teachings and versions in all other religions. And in order to do that, you have to make an effort to understand people. There are many personality tests out there. I was at the Nona Leadership Network meeting this week, and the speaker was talking about the DISC assessment, which was a new one on me, where people are basically identified into 4 different categories. There are 4 different animals. There's the otter, who is very popular and playful. There's the lion, who of course is very powerful. There's the golden retriever, and of course your mind just kind of goes to happy, peaceful, getting along with everyone. And then there's the beaver, the planner, the doer. He went on to tell about the attributes of each one and how each one plays an important roles in the organization and within the families and communities. And we need people that are creative and playful to bring some fun into our life. Let's face it, we can all use a lot more fun in our lives. And we need leaders as visionaries for guidance. And we need people to get along with everybody and kind of keep everybody happy. Those support people, those are pillars of the organizations and society. And we need those planners, those lovers of detail. God bless them. The trick is to understand these different types so you're not judging them by your standards or traits, and to appreciate each of them and in the roles they play in the whole. An organization could not run with all play. An organization couldn't run with all leaders. It needs the pillars of support from the people and the fine detail of the fine eyes of the detailed person. That's the person you want to be your chief financial officer. It's not the person who's into play, is it? So you need people, each one of those people. And to respect how they feel. The playful person needs to be around a lot of people, where the person who's into detail, they might not need quite so much of your energy around them. And just respect their space. It's not that they're trying to be unfriendly. It's just who they are. And it's just encouraging that understanding to accept each other. So, and if you want to be a true leader in any aspect of your life, it's important to remember that you're not to be judged by the work that you do as a leader, but by how you inspire others and how you help others to be their best that they can be. And if you just stop and think about that for a minute, how would your life be different if you focused on inspiring, helping others to be the best that they can be, rather than judging and fault-finding? I bet your life would be a lot more awesome for you, and it certainly would for the other person. I know we have a lot of members with a Catholic background here, and for those of you that don't have that background, there's a point in the Mass where, pre-COVID, people shake hands around them saying, "Peace be with you." And just imagine if we all practiced that as we were looking at people in our minds, especially if those people that aggravate us, if in your mind you would just say, "Peace be with you." Will it change their lives? Maybe. They might feel that energy vibe. Maybe not. Will it change your life? Most definitely. It will allow you to stay in a more peaceful head and heart space. And that space is easier to connect more fully with Spirit. It will allow you to stay happier and in a more joyful space. And that allows your connection with Spirit so much easier. every religion that I'm aware of has some form of love thy neighbor as thyself. If this is a basic concept for so many religions and so many people, then what's going on these days? Where have we lost that basics? And it's just the basics of life. If we were to practice that, it could bring us all back into harmony. That's a big ask, I hear you say. To bring the world back into harmony? That's big. So how do you expect me to accomplish something like that? And the answer is, just do your part. If you focused on playing your part in harmony, it would have the ripple effect. There's the often mentioned butterfly effect, which, for those that haven't heard of it, it's the idea that small things can have nonlinear impacts on a complex system. It is part of the concept that is imagined with a butterfly flapping its wings in Japan and then causing a typhoon. And here's a nerd alert, which is actually a metaphor for the principle of the chaos theory. So be the butterfly. Have your impact on the complex system. Where to start? Within. Start within yourself. Practice compassion for yourself. Talk to Spirit. Ask your angels. Ask for guidance. Drop into your heart and connect with Spirit. Connect with yourself and with your love for others. Express care and compassion for other people, for animals, and for our beautiful, beautiful Mother Earth. The more you feel love, the more it flows from you. And that wonderful feeling just naturally wants to expand. Of course, life being life will throw us those little hiccups that can make this all a little bit challenging, but choose to come back to love and peace. Find that as your center. It makes for such a more joyful life to walk through life sharing peace and harmony than it does to spread dissatisfaction, angst, and unrest. As a spiritualist, we are blessed to connect with Spirit and to loved ones who have passed to the other side, and we have received messages, either ourselves, we hear our messages, or we're blessed to hear them through mediums who give us Spirit messages of our loved ones, which we all get so excited about, myself definitely included. And so very, very often, as I'm sure all of you that have been here and received messages and heard other people's messages, the biggest message that our loved ones want to give us is how much they did and do love us. How special we were and are to them. They often give us words of wisdom on repairing our relationships, loving ourselves more, and when to distance ourselves from those people who are causing disharmony and lower vibrations in our lives. Their messages come to us with pure love, and they're based on helping you to achieve more love and harmony in your life, granting you more peace. In religious teachings, we're told, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever has been born of God and knows God. We all have the gifts of freedom to make our choices of how we're going to show up in life. So, my question to you is, what's your choice? And how much fun can you have with it? Now, have another song.